So I have a theory about Wandavision, one of my favorite shows out right now. Y'all know this, I'm always talking about it. But I have a theory about Marvel, their new venture into series, and what I call the Game of Thrones theory. Rock with me. So before we get started, y'all know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. It helps out. You already know what it is. Like this video. It helps with the algorithm, helps get the video out there, helps give me a broader audience, and gives us a broader conversation. And if you want to know what's going on with all Butler Did It content, just click that little bell and you'll find out. Okay, so first and foremost, let me start off with an apology. You guys know I traveled to Georgia about a week ago. Me and the family, we were out there for about a week. Full disclosure, I was around a dog. I have a very bad dog allergy, pet dander allergy. So I honestly really couldn't do any shows for a while. I did that one Wandavision video for you guys. I did another project. I worked on another project that I will talk about at the end of this video, but I really couldn't talk too much because honestly my allergies were so bad. I was just kind of dealing with the residuals from that I had to kind of bounce back. Also, one more just quick disclaimer before we get into this video, and this won't be a long one. My background. I am working on my background. You see I'm filming during the day. I don't have my lights and everything going on and all that, and I do apologize about that, but I'm working on my set here because I did sign a new deal with a new network. If you follow my social, you know what that is, but we'll talk about it again at the end of the video. So please forgive the appearance of this video. Just wanted to give you guys that heads up. All right, let's jump to the video. I love this show. WandaVision is so dope. This will not serve as like a review of the show. I'm just going to talk about a theory I have for the show and where I think Marvel is going with their series and a problem that they may have that they've never really dealt with before. Okay, so we're used to watching Marvel content, MCU content, and I'm not counting like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Netflix series, anything like that, because even though Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon and the Netflix series were kind of sort of canon, they don't really play into the MCU. Kevin Feige doesn't really consider those properties in a major way. Again, there's rumors about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and what's going to happen within the new Disney Plus series, but we're going to leave those out of this for a minute, and we're just going to talk about what Marvel has really focused on, which is the movies, the proper movies, right? The MCU films, the 10 years and the 3 phases of the MCU. Right? Well, normally when a film comes out and you hear about, let's say, Thor Ragnarok, right? You hear about Thor Ragnarok or Captain America Civil War, right? Now, both of those films are based on 2 very big comic book runs, right? The Civil War comic book run, and of course, you know, Planet Hulk and Ragnarok, right? So usually we see these films and we go, well, I kind of think this is what this is going to be about. But once the film is on, we recognize that they've made changes to the property, right? They put in new characters that weren't in before. In the case of Ragnarok, they mixed Planet Hulk and Ragnarok, made it into one story as opposed to 2 separate stories, right? With Civil War, of course, it's completely different than the Civil War run that was in the comic books. And we accept that because we're sitting in the movie theater. We don't really have time to sit on social media and talk about these things and sort of spoil stuff for people and really theorize, right? Well, it's completely different for a series, and I've noticed something with Marvel and something that I'm definitely guilty of, and I call it Game of Thrones syndrome. Now, what do I mean by Game of Thrones syndrome? Okay, now let's talk about Game of Thrones for a second. Again, one of my all-time favorite shows. I actually loved the last season of Game of Thrones, but I recognize that a lot of you didn't. And one of the biggest problems with Game of Thrones, in my humble opinion, was that there was source material. And anytime the writers, Dan and Dave, who, you know, we shall not speak their names at this point because just saying Dan and Dave in the nerd community is like, it's like a sin, right? But Dan and Dave, you know, anytime they would make any changes to the source material, I had to go away from the source material. Sorry, I just know there's a big scratch on my laptop, damn. Had to go away from the source material, the fans would go crazy. But even worse for me, what was really going on is we fall in love with these characters. We have a story and we know, we have a feeling as to what Jon Snow should do, what Daenerys should do, or what Wanda Maximoff should do, right? We have a feeling, and we start creating the stories within our mind. We can guess what's going on next because we're smart viewers, and we could take the source material, right, and kind of put two and two together and say, well, this character should end up here and that character should end up there, and this is what they should do. And oh my God, it looks like they're doing the Red Wedding. Now, I remember how the Red Wedding looked. It looked a certain way in the book. It should look exactly the same on the television show. And sometimes they execute that properly. Again, the Red Wedding was almost perfect. But when you have to make up stuff and you have to create your own and start telling your own story, sometimes our fans can get carried away. And I believe that's what happened with Game of Thrones. People didn't like what happened with Jon Snow. People definitely didn't like what happened with Daenerys. People didn't like what happened with Arya, and so on and so on. People didn't like what happened with Tyrion, right? They were saying things like, well, Tyrion wouldn't act like that. George Martin wouldn't write him that way, right? Now, let's get to the Marvel stuff. Because essentially what I'm talking about is fans theorizing and coming up with our own conclusions for where our story should go, and not allowing the writers and the creatives behind the show to just do their job and just sit back and enjoy the show. Now, Wandavision isn't anywhere close to where Game of Thrones was towards the end of its run. Game of Thrones was very controversial, to say the least. People were split on it. It caused a lot of arguments within the community, and a lot of people, again, came out of Game of Thrones really upset at how it ended, and a lot of people like myself really liked it, right? With WandaVision, I have to admit something, and I have to remember something as well. But let me admit where I've made a mistake with WandaVision. I guessed something right with WandaVision. I came on this platform and I bragged about it, right? I guessed the Quicksilver thing right. Now, mind you, it's not just because I'm just some sort of genius and I got, I have Charles Xavier psychic powers or anything like that. It's not that at all. I mean, there were clues to show me that Quicksilver, that the Fox Quicksilver was going to show up in this series, right? That Evan Peters was going to show up in this series. One, there were leaks saying that, it was IMDb leaks. There were rumors that he was on set, all sorts of stuff. And then once the story started to, play out, you could kind of figure out, like most smart fans, you could sort of figure out what was going to happen, right? Once they introduced the Fox version of Quicksilver to me, I started coming up with my own version of the story. I'm an X-Men guy. Out of all of the Marvel properties, I love the X-Men most. Now, I love the MCU, and I have lived with the MCU. I even admit that the MCU has been better than anything that DC or Fox has put out ever, right? With exclusion of a couple of movies. I love Days of Future Past. Days of Future Past is one of my all-time favorite movies. Logan, and the original X-Men, the first two X-Men, of course, but for the most part, the MCU smashes any other property out there, right? So I love the MCU, but they are working with B-list characters, and they have been for a while. And that's okay, because they couldn't use Spider-Man for a long time and they couldn't use X-Men. It actually speaks to the genius of Kevin Feige and the team over at Marvel to make guys like, say, Black Panther super popular, or Iron Man, right? Or Captain Marvel. But the moment they signed that deal with Fox and bought out Fox, all I can think about as a fan was, oh my God, here comes the X-Men. Oh my God, here comes the Fantastic Four. Oh my God, here comes Namor, and so on and so forth, right? Here comes Magneto, here comes Galactus, here comes Doctor Doom, all of these great villains, and all I could think is, wow, imagine if Kevin Feige can work with all of this great material. Look what he did with, in my opinion, lesser material, right? Agatha Harkness and Doctor Strange, and again, people love these characters, but for me, they were all second class when it came to the X-Men, right? So, let me get to the point. Evan Peters shows up. I see a Fox X-Men. First thing I think is, oh my God, here comes the X-Men. Now, I still think they're coming. I still think this is a story about mutants, but it's also a story about Doctor Strange. It's also a story about Captain Marvel. And that's the key. You're not going to get everything you want at one time. And I have to calm myself down, and I encourage a lot of people online that are theorizing a lot of things to calm themselves down as well. I'm starting to see people argue and debate over WandaVision, and we shouldn't be there. This is a show we should just enjoy. It's fun. And not only is it fun, it's well done. Like the way they are writing this show, is masterful, right? The Agatha Harkness reveal at the end of the series, again, a lot of fans guessed that Agnes was Agatha Harkness, and that was dope. Maybe I'll make a video about Agatha and why she's important to the MCU and important to the Scarlet Witch timeline. But you know, gotta be honest with you, that reveal felt second fiddle for me. It was not as exciting as seeing Quicksilver show up, the Fox Quicksilver show up at Wanda's door, right? There's another thing that's going on that upset fans where, you know, Monica Rambeau, and by the way, the Photon reveal, masterful. Monica Rambeau, a black woman in the superhero space, super dope. A character that was sort of popular in the comic books. Elevating her to an A-list character is going to be amazing, and it's going to make the Captain Marvel movies that more interesting. Just like Agatha Harkness and Mephisto and characters like this are going to make the Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange world that more interesting, right? But when Monica Rambeau is teasing for episodes now that she's going to meet with an aerospace engineer, and that's my guy, and I can't, well, you wait to see who this person is, right? And we all start thinking, oh, it's got to be Reed Richards. And it ends up just being basically Colonel who knows who. Yeah, that's disappointing. So Marvel is dealing with something different, right? And we fans and Marvel are both going to have to kind of adjust to this. Again, Marvel is usually making movies, and they're usually very secretive about what's going on with their movies. So we don't have a lot of time to speculate about a bunch of stuff. We go to the movies, we may start figuring stuff out in the middle of the film, but again, you're not going to jump on Twitter and just start speculating. You're going to watch the movie and then talk about it when it's done. But once it's done, right? Now that they're in the serialized, you know, television world, right? They've got like 8 series coming out on Disney Plus, and I'm looking forward to all of them. The Loki series, the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, right? The Armor Wars series, the Secret Wars series. There's so much stuff. The Hawkeye series. There's so much cool stuff coming out. The She-Hulk series, right? There's so much cool stuff coming out on Disney Plus. The one thing they need to be careful about so they don't slip into the Game of Thrones world, right? Where people start speculating about their content and not getting what they want, right? Not getting what they want, and then starting to overly critique their content. They got to be careful with that. It's just something that I would suggest they consider. I'm gonna be honest with you. I watch a lot of YouTubers. And by the way, I tagged this guy in another video. Comics Explained nailed the Agatha Harkness thing to the T, even down to the Darkhold, which is something I didn't even know about. I wasn't even aware of the Darkhold. If you want to know what the Darkhold is, it's basically the book. When you see Wanda go down into Agatha's basement, you see this book. That's the Darkhold. That's a Doctor Strange thing. I had no idea about it. Please check out his channel, man. If you want to know, you want to get hip to the comic world, Comics Explained is the guy, man. Okay, so there are people that are guessing this thing to the T. All right, that are on point with this. Okay, I watch a lot of videos with a lot of theories and a lot of stuff, and a couple of theories I've been seeing for weeks now is that that's not Quicksilver. That essentially the creators behind Wandavision just wanted to be cute by featuring Evan Peters and having him be a make-believe Quicksilver who was basically going to be, I've heard it's Mephisto. I've heard it's Nightmare in disguise. I've heard that it's Agatha's grandson, or just something that Agatha created just to mess with Wanda. Now, we did see the scene when it was, you know, it was Agatha all along, one of the dopest reveals ever. You did see that she was manipulating Pietro, but I'm holding out hope that somehow, some way, this is the Fox Pietro from the multiverse, or who knows how he got there, right? If he isn't, will I be disappointed? Absolutely. Well, I think it's kind of stupid. Yeah, because you could have got the MCU, you know, Quicksilver to just come in and trick Wanda. But whatever, at the end of the day, I'm going to carry the same mentality as I did with Game of Thrones, which ultimately helped me enjoy Game of Thrones at the end of the day. I'm going to trust the writers. WandaVision is a great show, so let's just enjoy it. It's cool to theorize. I will continue to do it on this channel with the Winter Soldier show and whatever other shows I choose to review on this channel, or movies or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, if you don't get what you want, If the aerospace engineer is just some woman, you deal with that. If Pietro is Mephisto in disguise, or, you know, freaking her grandson or whatever, okay, we'll deal with it. If the big Luke Skywalker level cameo is basically Captain Marvel or Doctor Strange, someone we've seen often, I'll live with that, because the show is good. You gotta let artists be artists. You gotta let artists be free. Trust in Kevin Feige. It's all gonna be okay. Don't react to this, and don't let this fandom become toxic like the Game of Thrones fandom became. All right. Yo, quick announcement for everybody out there that's interested in Butler Did It content. I have a new show that's going to be featured on the On My Feet app. That's right. The On My Feet app is the first social network by sneakerheads for sneakerheads. You could go on there, you could communicate with other sneakerheads, you can trade sneakers, you can buy sneakers on this app, you can talk about the culture all day long. It's so dope, and I've signed a deal to produce a show on there called What Are Those? That's right. The documentary is right here on this channel. This show is going to be based on that documentary, which will premiere exclusively on the On My Feet app, on their Instagram, on the app, and of course their YouTube channel. All information is down below. It's going to be really dope. I'm interviewing all sorts of cool people within the space. You know I love sneakers, man. You know that's a big part of me. Sneakers, hip hop, blurred culture is all part of me, and you get to learn more about the wonderful life of a sneakerhead over on What Are Those? All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for being so patient with me. I'm getting the set together. Me and my wife are working on some things to get this set together. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, continue to be great. Mind your mentals. That's what Marshawn said. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I love y'all. We up out of here.